Hey survivors, I'm Brian Hazard, your ever-eager explorer of all games narrative, and today we pick back up with our Outcast campaign. In the last session, if you recall, we had sent Ednus to go speak to the commander of the king's army because we had started to manifest outwardly some kind of strange visual manifestations, namely wings. Our robes turned black, our hair turned a different color, and we grew big freaking wings. So that's Elyd's sort of new look. It's a new fashion he's sporting. So that presented a problem because he couldn't simply go in front of the king's commander because, you know, what's with the wings, bro? Anyway, so now we're going to see what happens. I have no idea where this is going to go. I'm thinking this might be the last session. We'll find out. Let's get started. So here, if you remember, is the sort of the town we're in, Hopal. And I decided that this up here would be where the awakened ruin or the ruination is. And so I guess the first question here is simply, did Ednus's visit to the king's commander go well? Right. If you recall, she was taking provisions up to them and helping them make camp as a condition for them not storming in here right away so that we could hopefully buy some time for Ruination's awakening to complete. Let's find out. Okay, so it looks like they do actually go well. So we've got time. So rather than immediately having an issue, I think Ednus is going to be returning here. Okay, let's see what happens. So we're going to frame a scene. So where are you? Well, we're in Hope Hall at the Awakened Ruin. Who's here with you? Ednus is back. She's just arriving. What do you want to do? So that's interesting. There's actually not much for us to do. I think I want to stay out of sight, and I want to make sure that nobody disturbs this awakening, right? And that it's allowed to complete. What is stopping you from getting it? Well, I'm a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? I stand out in a crowd now with my wing situation. I kind of stand out in a crowd these days. And also I think the king's men are probably restless. I think for this one though, I'm also going to see if maybe there's some other challenge going on. And to do that, I'm going to roll on Oracle 3, and I'm just going to use these physical dice right now since I'm on the screen. We got 3-6. Decline 4-2. Decline scarcity. That's interesting. Yeah, so I'm thinking that Ednus has come back and things seemed to go well. She's telling me now sort of how that went, but there's something with this whole sort of decline scarcity thing that we're going to find out now. So, you're back, Elyd says to Ednus. Yeah, things went well, actually. Better than expected. So, they were happy with the provisions we offered. Yeah, and they said that they'll give us a day. Well, I guess now we wait. Yeah, we just wait. So, we're happy, right? But it's at this moment that Brogan starts up the road. We see Brogan and Stayark. Maybe there's also some other guards. So there's a sort of a troop of Stayark's men led by Brogan coming in, and Elyd sees them coming, but he doesn't want to be seen, I don't think. So I think he's going to make an effort to come and hide up in here, and Ednus is going to sort of prepare for their arrival, try to meet them to keep them back. Okay? And so they continue their approach. And I think at this point, I haven't marked all 5 steps on the progress track. So this cannot be the final scene according to the rules of the game. So that's important. I think the first question is, how does Ednus attempt to distract them? How would she go about that? I think the first thing is she says, "Oh, Brogan, Stayark, your highness, I wasn't expecting you. Were the provisions not to your liking? Are your men comfortable back at camp?" And you notice he didn't bring the whole army, just a guard. why the heck are they here? We're going to go ahead and do a roll on Oracle 3. So let's do that roll. 6-1. Sound 4-4. Sound and illusion. Sound illusion. Interesting. Something about sound illusion brought Brogan and Stayark here. Presumably at the behest of Stayark, as he is in charge. So I think the first thing that happens is that Stayark sort of like pushes Brogan out of the way and says, allow me to talk to her directly. And so Brogan gets pushed back. And Stayark says, I'm just going to roll with this and see what comes out. The field where you've had my men camp. You say it's safe. Yes, of course. We wouldn't have told you to camp there if it was not. Then what was that infernal flapping? I don't know. It's a sound, right? Illusion. Flapping, you say? Yes, it was like a heavy beating of wings. Ooh, wings flapping. Did you see anything? No, just we looked directly towards where we thought the sound was coming from, but there was nothing. It gave the men quite a spook, but we needed to come and see if there were any sort of local legends or anything like that. So I'm still at a loss here, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll on Oracle 3 again and see what we get. So 2-6 is, what is 2-6? 2-6 weakness, and 4-3 nature. Weakness, nature. Interesting. Weakness, nature. Sound illusion, weakness, nature. There's some flapping. We know that there are wind spirits out there. Weakness of nature. What would flap? Let's see. Let's go to Oracle 1. I haven't used Oracle 1 much. We'll ask, is there an actual danger? So here we go. Is there an actual danger? Yes, there is an actual danger. Is there a local legend about this danger? No. Okay. How dangerous is it, I guess? So Oracle 2 here. Oh my god, we got a 6. Incredibly dangerous. Oh, okay. So there's something that is incredibly dangerous, but there's no local legend about it. I don't know that Ednus even knows what it is. So let's see. So Ednus says, I'm aware of nothing that would make the sound of strong flapping without anything visible, but I'm happy to come with you if there's something that you think I could do to help ease your mind. Stayark says, I don't think that will be necessary, but if we find that there's no safety to be found on the fields that you encouraged us to camp in, there will be hell to pay. Make no mistake. And so I think the question now is, for this scene is, does our fearless Elyd manage to actually stay hidden through this whole thing as he wanted? Let's find out. What a weird scene. So here we go. Does he stay hidden? We're going to go to where is it? The scene resolution. Boom. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do a roll with the auger. This is my drum roll. 2-6. That might be okay. So 2-6. We'd add a snag, but we'd also mark progress. And that means we could frame the last scene. Am I allowed to add a snag at this point? Yes. Because you can never have more than 5, but I've got 4 right now. So I'm good to add one more snag. So we're going to go ahead and mark progress. And also, oops, that's an edge. Let's do a snag. Okay. What's a good snag? Well, let's do the snag generator here, which I like to roll on Oracle 3 first, and then go to the snag generator. So roll on Oracle 3, we get 2-2, barrier 1-6, or 6-1 rather, sound, barrier sound. How interesting. Okay, and then we go to the snag generator, and we get 3-2 setback. Lose opportunity, delay, obstacles, distraction, barrier, being stuck. Okay, so the snag that we're going to go with, I think the snag is going to be related to why we enter the final scene. And so an invisible dragon. That's what's the first thing coming to my mind. So we have this sound barrier, And there was also sound illusion. Illusion, it was invisible perhaps. And there was the flapping of the wings. All those things come together. There's an invisible dragon. It besets the king's army. They're heading this way. Bam. Okay, now the good news is I've got 5 progress and no taints. So it's about now. We're now, talking openly again. And Stearch and his men come back. But this time, there are several more among them, like a skirmisher and a champion. All right, and then maybe we're going to also have a ranger, but I want one ideally with a bow. Whoops, I got one, and then I kept moving. Yeah, crossbow, that works. Cool. All right, we've got a whole group of people is rushing. And also, let's see if there's hey, look, I see a dragon icon. Obviously, there isn't going to be a invisible dragon here, but let's go with this to represent our invisible dragon. All right. So I think what's happened is that, I realize now that my camera is on top of that. So there's where our invisible dragon is, just for pragmatic reasons. So, okay. So Stearch's men are rushing in. It's utter chaos because this invisible thing is lighting them aflame. So they're rushing, and the reason they're coming to us is I guess like they know they're gonna die or something, and so they're seeking revenge before they die, and they want to make sure this dragon like has a chance to get us because they think the king thinks that like we did this to him somehow or something like that. That's what I think is going on here. So we're gonna go to frame a scene, which is right. Shaw. Okay. Frame a scene. Where are you? We're still in Hope Hall. Who's here with you? A small army. What do you want here? We want to hold the awakened ruin so that ruination can fully awaken. What's stopping you from getting it? This massive army that's coming in. How can you get what you want? I think this is the time for Elyd to experiment with his new sort of godlike status with these wind powers and that sort of thing. At least 2 senses. Well, firstly, we hear the sound, this heavy flapping sound. We hear the screams. We smell like sulfur and ash. What's going on around us? The stampede of the king's men is going on around us right now. This lag is going to kill me, so I'm going to switch cameras real quick. All right, so there we go. Yeah, so I think that works. Let's see. So I think the first question is just like, what exactly is Stearch's men's plan? We're going to use the mission generator here because that was a tip I just read. I'm going to try it out. So what exactly are Stearch's men's plan? We get a 2-3, discover, and a 3-3, discover information. Okay. And we're also going to do, how loud is this flapping sound that we're hearing? We get a 4. So, I mean, it's pretty loud. And then we're going to also look into Oracle 3 just to get some context here. So they're discovering information, 5-6, chaos, 6-1, sound. Okay, I think we have what we need here. They want to figure out like how we did this and how to stop it, how to end this dragon thing, this invisible force from getting them, right? So they come in faster than we can stop them. I think that Edness sort of, again, tries to stand in their way. How's that go for her? We're gonna roll a warm-up roll, and it goes well. She's able to thwart one of these soldiers, right? And at this point, the invisible flapping sound gets more intense, and now Ennis needs to sort of take on this invisible thing that she can't even see. How's that go for her? 6-3. So pretty well. I think she can hear it well enough to run and get out of its way just before it makes landfall and sort of turns around back towards them. And now Elyd hasn't yet been seen, but he realizes he needs to do something because even though he wants to protect the site of the ruin, he still is sort of a good guy, a very devout believer in the value of people. So I guess the question now is he able to, through his ability with the wind, sort of sense where precisely this invisible dragon is and what its nature might be? Roll, and we get a surprising element 4-4. So I think it's at this time. So part of the surprising element, but not the whole thing, is that we realize that the reason that this has been so utterly chaotic is that actually there are two dragons, not merely one dragon. And the other thing is that Elyd realizes that he can sense the minor disturbances in the air pressure with his sort of new abilities. And so he knows precisely where this dragon is. And he decides to sort of take to the air. And I think he's going to try to engage it directly by sort of forcing air pressure onto it. He's going to try to crush it with air pressure, basically. So let's roll. We get a 1-3. It works. So this one, it sort of flies away. It's confused and scared. But that just, I think, brings in the big boy to directly engage Elyd. And so Elyd, he's new with these abilities. So he's kind of going to go one trick here. And he tries to crush this one with strong air pressure. And this time, he's not so lucky. It doesn't work. And not only that, but the dragon sort of almost spitefully turns and lays waste to this poor guy, right? And Stayark and his men can see nothing except for this demon version, from their perspective, this demon version of Elyd standing here in the direction where the forceful power seemed to go. And he's over there kind of like, projecting this pressure on the dragon. And so they're like, he's got wings, right? Flapping, right? That must be the demon. It tricked us, and now it's trying to kill us all. Attack! So they immediately start rushing. And I think one question is this, so this ranger here is going to fire. And while it fires, does it, we're going to use the Oracle 1 for this, which is the yes no stuff. Does it, when firing, accidentally hit this dragon? So, and he does actually. So he hits the dragon, and what is the dragon's sort of reaction to this? Just for funsies, I'm going to use the mission generator here to figure out, like, what is the dragon even trying to do? I don't really know that. So 3-4. 3-4 is invade. 6-5, invade technology. Well, that's a weird combination. What in the world? Okay, and then what's the reaction? I think maybe that is the reaction, right? Like, so this dragon senses or like gets hit by this arrow, and I think the invade is going to be that this dragon comes back into the fight and just immediately, boom, takes the technology, right? The, what's it called? The crossbow technology. And it looks like I need to swap out my camera on all of these, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Talk cam. Cool. And since the action's happening up there, I'll just kind of... All right. So, that's another soldier down, basically. And now, I think at this point, Elyd's going to act again. And I think he decides, because they want to go after him, so he decides to go directly to Stayark to speak with him. And he's going to try to do this sneakily so that he's not seen by the soldiers. Like, they've already seen him, just to be clear, but he doesn't want them to see that he's like sort of going around and trying to get over to the king, because obviously they would take that as a threat. Does that work? 5-3. It does actually work. So he manages to get over to the king. He says, "Listen, your majesty." And the king probably recoils. Does the king recoil? We're going to roll. Yes, the king does recoil and sort of like try to run away. So I think Elyd needs to take a different approach here. Let's say that he uses his abilities to like carry his voice on the wind, right? So now it's like the winds are whispering to Stayark. So he wants to carry his voice to Stayark on the winds with his abilities. So, here's our dear Elyd. And he says, "Your Majesty, do not be afraid. I'm not the one who's been attacking your men. There are two large invisible dragon beasts that are laying waste to your men. Surely you don't believe that as small a man as I could cause so much damage." And of course, I think in some ways, this means of communicating is only hurting his argument, because like, wait, you can like speak to me on the wind. Like, I think you absolutely could cause this kind of damage, right? Stayark can't talk back to him because he doesn't have the ability to sort of carry his voice on the wind. So Elyd keeps speaking, and he says, "I've learned that the god that you have persecuted the followers of is not what we imagined him to be. He used his gifts to humankind as a way to pacify us into submission, while we completely wrecked this planet that we all depend on to survive. And so ruination, what we call ruination, is really just the overwhelming power of this planet. And ruination must be allowed to be restored, to allow the forces of nature to thrive." And so I guess one question here is like, does any of this have any positive impact on Stayark? And no, it does not. So I rolled a warm-up roll for that, and yeah, it does not have a positive impact on Stayark. And I guess the question now is Stayark actually motivated to greater fear by all this? Yes, he is. So he calls to his men, "Men, turn your attention to the demon that pursues me," right? So all of these men are now closing in on Elyd, completely ignoring these dragons here. And that leaves our poor Ednis alone here. And so Ednis, I think, tries to come this way. And let's see, what does the king sort of like hide in safety over here? Or does the king try to make it to the ruination? The king tries to make it to ruination. And let's see, does he succeed? Yes. So he, without being noticed, comes up. Let me zoom out. There we go. Comes up to the ruination, a site right there. All right. And there we go. Okay. I think things are looking desperate for Elyd. And desperate times call for desperate measures. So what is Elyd going to attempt to do? I think that Elyd is going to attempt to sort of like, oh, to hell with it. I'm going to get on the dragon, and he's going to attempt to take control of the dragon. Okay. How does this work out? Let's find out. Oh, that does not go well. So I think the dragon sort of throws him off. Boom. And he like hits the ground over here and turns on him. Right. So that leaves these of the king's men alone with Ednis and this dragon. So Ednis is in a pickle. Does Ednis get taken down by all of this? She does. Poor Ednis falls, leaving everything up to Elyd. Now, I think that this is not looking good. Oh my gosh, what the heck can he even do here? I think this is when the wind spirits might come in. Do we have some form of... let's see. Okay. I wonder if we can spirit. Let's try wind. Air? Yep. we have an air elemental. So some air elementals pop up. And there we go. All right. So now he's got some air elementals in his corner, and they're going to have some advice. Kind of a use the force moment. The air elementals say, "Chosen one, now is the time to unleash the full fury of your elemental capabilities. Don't be afraid to crush those who would end the awakening of the almighty ruination." They sure sound evil. I'm not sure Elyd has picked the right side of this. Anyway, so let's see. Does Elyd go with what they say, or is this like a wait a second sort of moment for him? Let's go. Let's find out. Okay, so he has a little bit of a wait a minute moment. But what is the nature of the wait a minute moment here? I'm gonna take a look at an Oracle 3 roll, because it's when I get a little stuck, I find it very helpful. So here we go. Oracle 3, 1-1. Fire. 2-5. Fire and strength. What? Fire and strength. Oh man, that didn't help me this time, like at all. Fire and strength. I think maybe it just means that before he even has a chance to react to what they said, both of these dragons are just on him. And let's see, do they I think they just blast at Elyd with fire. But he takes to the sky before they have a chance to do any real harm. And he, in turn, blasts back with like gale force winds, like hurricane strength winds. And does this have any impact? Yes, it does. And so I think finally at this, our dragon foes fall, because being wind creatures, they kind of can't stand against the sort of almighty power of the wind. And he also sends these air elementals to sort of deal with these guys. Whoops. And from his vantage point, he can see Stayark. So he lands and he says, "Stayark, I want for this to be a peaceful discussion, but I will not allow you to interfere with the awakening of the almighty ruination." He did have that moment of like hesitation, I think, from the air elementals, from their tone of like destroy them, right? I don't know how he like, what's the word I'm looking for? How he comes to terms with that though here. I'm not sure where the story should go with that if we did something like that. So I'm just gonna keep it rolling. Yeah, so Stayark, I can't allow you to interfere with the awakening of the almighty ruination. And Stayark is like inches away from sort of the center of this ruin, where, you know, there's just sort of this powerful energy like beaming down from the heavens into this obelisk that is presumably going to fully awaken this being. And so Stayark is going to try to just do it. And I think Elyd is forced to take action. And so he summons what is basically a tornado to sort of rip through and carry Stayark away. And we're going to roll. And I got a 2-2, which means there is a surprising element here. And I'm going to say that he deals with Stayark. He manages to sort of gently place Stayark down far away. But as he's not gotten his abilities under control yet, he falls into this beam of light from the heavens. And at this moment, the air elementals sort of immediately break off and surround Elyd. And they're almost like applauding, like, yes, this is the moment we've all waited for, right? Something like that. That kind of energy, that kind of vibe. And Elyd feels something like what he felt when he was filled with this air elemental energy, except several times over, right? And it is the energy of the earth and of the water and of the fire. And because we'll bring in that sort of that fire element that we rolled earlier and didn't really do anything with it. All of that, right? Flooding into him. And I think it's at this moment that he realizes that the awakening was never some being that exists that was being awoken, but rather was about him being awoken as ruination. And so I think to represent this, once again, we're going to make some sort of wardrobe changes here. And I think that the first thing is that he goes like full on, like this magnificent red. And I'm wondering if there's even like, except for his like gold glowing skin, or maybe it's even, yes, I'm just having fun with it. So and I wonder if there's some way to, there we go. That's good. Okay. So this is now our good friend Elyd, manifest as ruination. And so I think, along with this, now we've got, like, it's not just air elementals, but, fire elementals. And do we have anything like, water elemental? And they're all here to sort of like bow at the almighty power of Elyd. This is not at all where I thought any of this was going, because this is supposed to be a game about reputation and redemption. I don't know what it's become, with my apologies to Cesar Capacle, whose game this is. Anyway. And so now, at the sight of this, all of these, Stayark's made his way up. Elyd sort of flies over and he says, I have awakened. I am still the one called Elyd. That has not changed. But I have a realization of urgency of what this world needs, and deep and ancient power. In fact, many deep and ancient powers have awakened within me, and I now have the strength needed to give this world what it needs. It would be fruitless to try me in combat, so much so that I won't even entertain you in such an endeavor. I have no need of staying here anymore. You may destroy the ruin, if you would like. I, however, will unite the Pogwatists and non-believers in a new belief system, one that will care for the health of our planet, one that will not take selfishly all of the resources it has to offer, but will give back what is required to allow it to thrive. The people of this world will listen to me when they see my benevolence and my power. You would do well to do the same. And so I think, as a representation of how like most people in the world will act, and in fact, if Stayark in this kingdom sort of bows at this new religion, and Elyd's not trying to set himself up as a god. He is actually more sees himself as a guardian of the planet, even though his abilities are in fact pretty much godlike. And so the question now, as we turn to our final scene resolution, the question now is, he was sort of seen as an outcast for like awakening something evil here. And in a way, this awakening was completed and he saw to it, and it's turned him into something very different and hard to understand. But he has a message that is delivered from a place of benevolence, and that he can, with his sort of devoutness, pass as like, this is the truth and it's needed, right? And so the question is, does this redeem him in the eyes of those who thought he had, done messed up? Or did they see him as something evil and untoward? And so the way that we resolve this final scene, we're going to use Stayark as sort of the proxy for what everyone in the kingdom is going to think of, And the way this is going to work is we're going to roll our light and dark die, but I'm going to add the checks to the light die. So unless I roll a 1 on the light die and a 6 on the dark die, which would give me an unclear mission, then we will succeed. Let's find out what happens with a roll. Light is going to be the left, dark is going to be the right. Here we go. 5 and 2, and then we add 5, so 10 versus 2. So yes, we succeed. And so we're going to conclude the mission successfully and get what you wanted from it, which is that he is going to end the persecution of the Pogwatists. But he did so in an unexpected way, which is he ended Pogwatism and instead formed a new faith around Ruinism. We're going to call it Ruinism. Some even call it Elydism, but Elyd rejects this sort of, propping him up to be something higher than others. So did I uncover the truth? I did, right? Was I guilty? Yeah, actually, I did cause this temple to do this, whatever it is. Did I finally get my redemption? In a way, I actually sort of rose up to some higher spiritual plane, basically. So we do have a mission success. I think the way this plays out is that Stayark sort of takes a knee and says, Elyd, brother Elyd, I could see that you are all powerful, and the fact that you are not putting an end to us right now shows me that you are benevolent. I will hear you out at a minimum, and assuming that you have a message that is worthy, I will vow to help you spread it throughout the lands. I was long one who believed that Pogwat and his followers were victims of nonsense. No, that's not true. Rewind that back. We actually knew that they wanted people to follow Pogwatism. And the reason was it was actually away from this sort of nature religion. So I think it's more like this. I long persecuted the Pogwatists in an effort to turn them away from the nature worship of our ancient times. But now I see I was wrong, and that nature worship is a very powerful force. The point is, yes, people in this kingdom are going to respect Elyd from here on out and no longer view him as an outcast, but rather as something to be raised up high. And so that's the game. So if I wanted to keep playing, I could roll a new mission and off we go. Or I could play an epilogue, which I kind of just did. That's The Outcast by Cesar Capacle. I had a lot of fun playing this game. Light mechanics, the warm-up rolls allow you to roll whenever you want and not have to worry about like complicated mechanical stuff. The scene resolution rolls give you just a little bit of mechanical sort of implication. I think that, the edges were, especially if you take the effort to, what's the word I'm looking for? If you take the effort to bring them into the fiction, then they're a really cool sort of way to get to do a reroll on a scene resolution. So a lot of fun playing The Outcast. I hope you enjoyed watching over this. If you want to see more stuff like this, there's a couple of things that you could do. First of all, I do have a podcast. You can go to anchor.fm/instadeath to hear audio content like this, interviews with game designers and authors, that sort of thing. Also, don't forget to like this video, comment to, tell me what you liked and didn't like and what you'd like to see next, that sort of thing. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing more video playthroughs and content exploring narrative games. If you want to support, I've got a Patreon, patreon.com/instadeath. Other ways that you could support, hey, I just want to hear your voice. So call in anchor.fm/instadeath/message. You can leave me an audio message, just talking about what games are you playing. Thanks so much for tuning in. Can't wait to play another game with you and explore narrative games